Hello folks, Dixie Railfan Productions here, and welcome back to another train ride video, I should say. Today we are riding on a Missionary Ridge local TVRM, riding behind locomotive number 4617.
Good afternoon, folks.
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
About 202 departure of train number 100, the Missionary Ridge local. My name is Lane. I'll be your tour guide today. We have our conductor Jason and our engineer Mr. Joseph. Folks, I hope you waved Grand Junction goodbye, because we will not be seeing it for a day or two, a week at the most. So I hope you brought yourself a nice snack and beverage. Of course, I am just kidding. We have to turn this train around, as technically we're heading the wrong direction. Now we're heading to East Chattanooga today, and right now we're heading eastbound, which does sound like it would make sense. However, this route is a little bit backwards. We actually have to head westbound to East Chattanooga. So what we have to do here is we have to turn this train around. How are we going to do that? Well, with the use of a Y. Why, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. The Y, spelled W-Y-E, is a giant, pretty much a giant 3-point turn. What we have to do is we've gone straight on our base leg now. Now we only have to reverse back up the east leg of our Y. Our conductor is going to we will then give radio communication, we'll transfer train control back to the engineer, and then we'll head down westbound to East Chattanooga. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the passenger cars you're riding in today. The first car right behind our locomotive, the car that I'm currently speaking to you from, well, that is Central of Georgia, number 528. 528 was built by the Pullman Company in 1924. Pullman being based out of Chicago, Illinois. The Central of Georgia would use 528 on a few different named trains, such as the Nancy Hanks 2 and the Seminole. The Seminole was a named train that ran between Chicago, Illinois and Florida, and was jointly operated between the Illinois Central and the Central of Georgia Railways. 528, along with the rest of the Central of Georgia, would be bought up by the Southern Railway. The Southern Railway would give this car a new number 906, and it would continue in service primarily on passenger excursion operations till 1979, when the car was then donated to us here at TVRM. The next car on our train is Southern Railway number 1037, originally built in 1925 by the Pullman Company of Chicago, Illinois. It was originally built as a sleeping car, but was later converted to a coach car by the Southern Railway in 1954 after sleeping traffic was dwindling, but coach traffic was still in high demand. The Southern Railway would later sell it, donate it to us here at TVRM. And the last car on our train is Southern Railway number 1000, originally built in 1925 by the Pullman Company of Chicago, Illinois, making this a full Pullman train. It is the only car on our train that has opening and closing windows. So if you are in that car, please keep everything on the inside. We don't want you to go home with less stuff. In fact, we want you to go home with more stuff. Please check out our gift shop when we get back. If you are in cars 906 or 1037 and you somehow managed to open one of those windows, well, my first question will be, well, how'd you do that? And then my second question will be, well, how do you plan on paying for that? On the left side of our train, right across the parking lot there, you'll see a big brown building. That brown building is the exhibit building. That does come free with your ticket purchase today. And we do recommend heading over there after your train ride, as it does close at 5 o'clock. You'll also see our display yard, which has different pieces of equipment on display, where some pieces are in operational use for our dinner trains and Northwest Border trains. On the right side of our train, you will see Grand Junction Station, and behind that, where that freight train is, well, that is the modern-day Norfolk Southern Originally Southern Railway, 1954 bypass of this railroad. As you can see, it is still in service to this day. It sees upwards of 30 trains a day between Atlanta, Georgia, and Chattanooga, Tennessee. However, it does split off in Ottawa, Tennessee to head up towards Cleveland and Knoxville, Tennessee. Folks, this railroad was originally built in 1859 by the East Tennessee and Georgia Railway as their Chattanooga extension. On the left side down there, you'll actually see that gravel driveway. That is the original 1859 East Tennessee and Georgia right-of-way. You might be wondering, why in the world was the railroad track down there moved up to its current position? Well, folks, I will tell you, that is because of flooding. The Tennessee Valley area, especially the Tennessee River and connecting creeks and rivers before the construction of the Chickamauga Dam, were prone to flooding whenever it would heavily rain. The worst flood happening in 1867 when the floodwaters were as high as 58 feet above the normal height and 9 feet above the railroad. Folks, as the great Johnny Cash once said, how high is the water, mama? 58 feet high and rising. On the left side here, you'll see a tree with a yellow mark on it. Should be passing us right about now. That tree signifies how high that water got. This is the culprit of that flooding, the South Chickamauga Creek that we're crossing over. On the left side, you'll see the original bridge piers for the East Tennessee and Georgia. And on the right side, you'll see the CSX Transportation Company's Tyner branch that services the Enterprise South Tyner Industrial Complex. In 1894, the East Tennessee and Georgia would merge with a few of the railroads to create the Southern Railway. The Southern, in 1906, would move this railroad up to its current position, and in doing so, they would straighten the track out and double track it, meaning that there was a second track next to this one to make it where trains could pass each other at upwards of 60 miles an hour heading east or westbound. On the left side of our train, if you look directly down, you'll see those tracks next to us. That is what's known as McCarty Siding. McCarty Siding is the only place on this railroad that you can still see what that double tracking once looked like. Folks, we are now crossing over our second bridge of our train travel today, and that's the bridge over the Western and Atlantic Railroad. Folks, you see that railroad down there? Well, that right there is actually owned by the state of Georgia. That's right, there's state of Georgia property here in Tennessee. The only other place in Tennessee that I can think of that's owned by the state of Georgia, well, that would be Neyland Stadium up in Knoxville. But of course, that all depends on the outcome of a football game. Folks, I'm not even a Bulldogs fan. War Eagle. Well, that's just rude. Fair enough. Folks, the Western Atlantic, also known as the WNA, and no, folks, it is not W, it's W. It's spelled D-U-B-Y-A. Just in case you want to know how southern we are here at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, we do speak fluent cornbread with a hint of banjo. However, I'm much more of a cheerline speaker myself. The Western Atlantic was chartered in 1836 out of Terminus, Georgia. And if you're wondering where Terminus, Georgia is, well, I'll tell you. If you ever driven south on I-75, I-85 at any given time, and you've probably been stopped in a lot of traffic at one point, well, folks, it's known as the world's largest parking lot, especially here in the south, but its modern day name is Atlanta, Georgia. Terminus was named such because it was the terminus of the Western and Atlantic. Like I said, in 1836 it was chartered, and they started laying railroad track through the northwest Georgia countryside out of Terminus until arriving at a bit of a roadblock, that roadblock being the Tennessee state line. Tennessee looked at their neighbors to the south and said, hey, you're owning this track, well, we don't want you here, so why don't you go on and get? Well, Georgia did not go on and get. they stayed put. In fact, they went and lobbied for a number of years between the two states to get permission or deny permission to let this railroad get built. Eventually, a man by the name of Colonel James A. Whiteside stepped in. He was a Tennessee legislator, but he was also a major investor in the Western Atlantic Railroad and East Tennessee and Georgia. So with all this in mind, again, Tennessee legislator, which side did he lobby for? Well, of course, he lobbied for the state of Georgia. He would go to his fellow legislators in Nashville and would lobby for a number of years, 10 to be in fact. 10 years he would lobby for them, and if I had anyone lobby for me for 10 years, I'd also tell them to zip it. Well, they told him to zip it, because if he did, then the railroad would be able to get built. Well, he saw this as a good thing, so zip it he did, and build it he did. And well, the railroad arrived in downtown Chattanooga in 1850, making it the first railroad to do so. As we continue our climb up the Missionary Ridge grade, we'll be heading towards our third bridge of our train trip today. Hey, look, there it is. It's the bridge over the Tunnel Boulevard. Originally, when this railroad was built and automobile traffic came out, they would build a tunnel underneath the railroad track right there. However, in 1954, when this railroad was abandoned, well, they would carry that tunnel out. In 1968, Southern would donate this land to us, and we started laying railroad tracks until we got to the big old gap in the railroad track there. Well, at the time, we didn't have the money to build a bridge. So what did we do, folks? Well, we just ran trips between East Chattanooga and right here. In 1977, we finally had enough money to build a bridge. We built one we did, and we've been running over Tunnel Boulevard ever since. On the left side of our train, you'll see a berm out there in the woods. That berm is the original 1859 right-of-way snaking off into the woods. You see, when this railroad was built, it was 100% hand-laid, folks, meaning that they took the path of least resistance whenever possible. If there was a big old boulder in the way, well, they just would go around it. If there was a big clump of trees in the way, well, they would just go around it. And if my conductor Jason was in the way, well, they would politely ask him to step to the side. Hey, how's it going? Something that did not politely move when asked was the Missionary Ridge itself. I know, how rude is it? Missionary Ridge was deemed too steep to go over and was deemed too wide to go around. So what did they do, folks? Well, they went plumb straight through it. This is the mid-1850s, folks. Dynamite had not been invented. It was invented in 1867. Wow. And black powder was deemed too dangerous for the soft limestone here in the ridge. So they had to 100% hand dig this tunnel, all 986 feet of it, folks. And when the two crews met in the middle, they were only off-centered by 3 inches, folks. For 1858 surveying technology, that's quite impressive. But if you were off by 3 inches nowadays, folks, well, your foreman would yell at you and send you home with no pay. Folks, if you are in coach number 1000, please keep everything inside once again. This tunnel is very tight, and we don't want anybody going home with less than what they came with. Folks, it's a little past my lunchtime, so that must mean it is tunnel time here in Tennessee. Get your phones out, turn your flashlights on, and put it against the window, because then you'll be able to see the inside of this tunnel, and you'll see the different materials that make up this tunnel. You'll see the big stone blocks, the small stone bricks, and the natural forming limestone that makes up the natural bricks. However, some people have mixed that limestone granite. That was all 986 feet of the Missionary Ridge Tunnel, also known as the Whiteside Tunnel, as it was named after Colonel James A. Whiteside. As you notice, folks, that tunnel is very tight, with the clearance being just about 15 inches. As you can probably guess, you can only run one train through there at a time. We have tried 2 trains at once, folks, and it did not go well. The Southern Railway would actually construct a tower on this side of the ridge, calling it VM Tower. That would control traffic in and out of the tunnel. Again, both sides were double tracked except that tunnel, creating a bit of a bottleneck. If you were a westbound train, well, you had the priority through the tunnel. However, if you were an eastbound train, all you had to do is what they say on the railroad and hurry up and wait. The Southern Railway would get sick of this bottleneck and would start seeking other options. They would try to think about building a new tunnel next to it, expanding the tunnel, or building a whole new railroad. After doing some number crunching, they would actually find out that building a whole new railroad around the ridge would be cheaper. So they would do that. And in 1954, this railroad was abandoned for the railroad you saw back at Grand Junction. Folks, we just crossed over our 4th and final bridge of our train ride today. If you blinked, well, you may have missed it. But that means we're now arriving in East Chattanooga, folks. Just a quick safety tips for you. If you want to get off this train and see the turntable tour and back shop tour, you are more than welcome to. But if you want to stay on this train, you are more than welcome to do that. If you do get off the train, please pay attention to the following safety announcements. Please stay with the tour group at all times, folks. This is an active rail yard and stuff can and will move at any given time with very little to no warning. Please do not climb on any of the equipment or put your children on the equipment to take a photo. You are more than welcome to take a photo next to the pieces of equipment, but please do not climb as you may slip and fall or your children may fall off, and we do not want that to happen today. Please stay on the concrete walkway. I know everyone likes the crunchy sounds of the gravel underneath your feet, but please stay on the concrete walkways. Please remain seated until we come to a complete stop. No, folks, not a partial stop, because at a partial stop, well, you can only partially get up. Please wait for your conductor or trainman to let you know that it is safe to deboard the train before you get up. And lastly, if we can get everybody, once we come to that complete stop, to close your window blinds, where the AC is having a tough time with this 100 and something heat index. And to keep this train cool, closing those window blinds sure helps us a lot. Keep not just us cool, but keeps you and your fellow passengers cool. So if you could do that for us, that would be greatly appreciated. Once again, folks, welcome to the thriving metropolis of East Chattanooga.
After we arrived in East Chattanooga, we were welcomed to disembark the train and head to the turntable for a turntable demonstration, and we would also learn about the history of the turntable and the locomotive itself.
Alrighty, folks, welcome to East Chattanooga and welcome to our turntable. This is it right here, I'm standing on it. Folks, this turntable was built in 1916 by the American Bridge Company of Ambridge, Pennsylvania. It was built for the Central Georgia Railway for their Macon shops in Macon, Georgia. The Central Georgia would use it for a number of years until it was deemed too short for their rolling and steam locomotive. This turntable here weighs 80 tons, and I will be standing on it, especially after the 2 poor dogs I just had last trip. Well, we're up to 81 tons now. And it is 80 feet long. 80 feet seems like a lot, and it is, but for the growing steam engines in the central, well, it was just deemed too short. So they would send it off to a branch line in Cedartown, Georgia, where it was used for a number of years, where it was once again deemed obsolete after the onslaught of dieselization came along. Diesel locomotives did not require it to be turned as often or as much as the steam locomotives, as they could run either direction pretty decently. Compared to the steam engine, who runs best forwards. So in 1982, it was sold off to us here at TVRM, and we've been using it here July 4th, 1982, ever since. Now, this was also originally built as an Armstrong turntable, meaning it was 100% turned by hand. Again, you're looking at 80 tons right here. That diesel electric locomotive is 120 tons by itself. You're looking at 200 tons all being turned. While with a steam engine, they can weigh 200 tons by themselves. So you're looking at about 300 tons being turned all by hand. However, thankfully, we have employed the world's strongest man today, and that's our conductor, Mr. Jason. Let's give him a nice wave and round of applause.
All right!
As he will be turning this whole thing around with just one finger. Which finger is that going to be?
I'm going to use this one right here.
This is that this finger finger?
I like this one.
All right, we do not let you get that mixed up. Folks, he's going to use that one finger to push a button because this turntable has been electrified. We don't have to worry about me and Jason standing on this 100% metal electric turntable. As we all know, electricity does not go through a bad conductor. Now, if you watch this end, it's just being neat. If you just watch this end down here, you'll see the turntable drop down a little bit. That means that all the weight's on that side. Here in the middle, there's a big old center ball bearing. That is what turns this whole thing around. Without that, well, this whole thing will just be a big old metal sitting in this turntable pit. And down there, we'll find a little doghouse and we'll get down again. That means that we're going to turn this around. There's that drop over there. Right above me is my engineer, Mr. Justin. So I'll give him a nice wave around the applause to get us here safely. This test is
As soon as the turntable demonstration was done, we would get a tour inside the shops.
Alrighty, folks, welcome to the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum's Sewell Shops, named after one of our founders, Mr. Bob Sewell. This is where we restore, maintain, and inspect all of our pieces of equipment here at TVRM. I know a lot of you want to talk about it, so I'll go ahead and talk about it. That steam locomotive right out there, that is Southern Railway number 4501, originally built in 1911 by the Baldwin Locomotive Works as their 37,085th locomotive they've ever built. The 4501 was originally built for the Southern as a 282 Mikado type steam locomotive, and it was the first steam locomotive of that type for the Southern. 4501 was originally painted in freight locomotive black as it was a freight engine, similar to the 630 that you can also see outside, and you can see it once we go back out at the end. When it would get sold off to the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway, it was renumbered to their number 12 sorry guys, it's hot out now, I'm getting tongue-tied. As their number 12, as it was the 12th engine they would have ever owned. The 12 would serve the KNT until 1964, when it was purchased by one of our founders, Mr. Paul Merriman, for $5,000. That was cheaper than my car. Not including the plane, actually, but still. That locomotive there would run under its own power in June 6, 1964, from Stearns, Kentucky to Chattanooga, Tennessee. In 1966, it would get restored to good condition to run on the Southern Railway's steam program. The 4501 would also get painted this green color that you see it have to this day, because the president of the Southern, Mr. Graham Plater, wanted the locomotive painted green, similar to the passenger steam locomotives that the Southern had during the days of steam. In 1996, we would repaint it back into its original black paint scheme, and we would keep it that way until early 2026 this year. We would paint it back into the green to honor the 250th anniversary of America, the 115th year of this locomotive after it had been built, the 65th anniversary of us as a museum, and 60 years since the Southern Railway steam program. It's going down to Somerville, Georgia tomorrow. That's why it's getting planned and worked on as of right now. So if you're in town and you want to see it, it will leave tomorrow at 9 a.m. in Somerville about 12:30, and it will arrive back here at 6 o'clock, roughly. Now let's talk about some of the stuff on the inside here. This coach car right behind me, that is Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac, number 857. Originally built in 1947 by the Bud Company for the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad. I've done good all day until this one. I've been slipping up a lot. I guess it's just getting so much hotter. Now this is the part of my question. Which one do you want your oven on and left it open before? But I have to speak to you personally. Anyways, back to the passenger car. It was built for the RFP and served the RFP until about 1971, when it was then sold off to Amtrak. In 1971, Amtrak took over the nation's passenger operations. This car was used on that railroad for a number of years until being retired and sold into private ownership. It would bounce around for a little bit until ending up at the Blue Water chapter in Michigan of the National Railroad Historical Society. Again, sometime after that. But it would go there for a while, and it would be, at least to us, and we'd use it for a number of years until that chapter would go under due to bankruptcy, and we would acquire the car through donation from them, and we've been using it here ever since. The car is getting generator work on it right now. The generator is what powers the whole passenger car. Without it, there would be no AC and no lights, so it probably would have been a very hot and dark ride over here if this car was, if these generators didn't work. The car behind it, that gray passenger car back there, and that's not gray like this one. This one's stainless steel. That one is just in primer. The car back there is the Pullman Company's Maitland, built in 1925 by the Pullman Company of Chicago, Illinois. Unlike the cars that we rode in today, those cars were built for the railroads themselves. That car was built for Pullman itself. I guess the 4501 had something to say about that. The mainland would be used by the Pullman Company. In 1935, it would acquire modern amenities such as air conditioning and steel shut windows. The car would then go on later to be used or sold off to the Southern Railway. It was eventually donated to us by Pullman, where it was again. I apologize.
You're good.
We used it in some of our early excursions, as it was one of the first cars ever donated to us here by the Pullman Company, or in general. Until people wore out. The car, anything mechanical, of course, wears down and wears out. The car had been used heavily. And so we needed to restore it and put it back in good condition. However, at the time we did not have the money to do that, so we had to put it in storage. It sat in storage for 30 years, folks. And if you know anything about mechanical stuff, having a mechanical piece of equipment sit in storage for any given amount of time is not good for it. The car would seize up, rust up, and it would just go into a worse condition than it already was. But thanks to a grant worth about $400,000, well, we were able to bring it over here and put it in our shop, as you can see back there. We're at the Hall grant, I've been tricked. Well, we've been working on that car. I'm getting a lot of the metal work done to it, and electrical work and all that fun stuff. And we do hope the car will be back in service either later this year or early next year. But it's not just thanks to the grant that we're able to get this car back in operation. It's mostly thanks to you guys here today. We really do appreciate you guys coming out. Without you guys, well, we wouldn't be able to run these steam locomotives, these diesel electric locomotives, or restore and work on these passenger cars. We really do appreciate you guys coming out. Without you guys, a lot of this stuff probably would have been scrapped and turned into razor blades that some of us used to shave this morning. Steam locomotives, 45-1, helped us build this country, helped us get from end to end quicker, helped us haul more stuff. Passenger cars, like the 857 and the mainland, helped us travel in comfort. And diesel electric locomotives helped us revolutionize rail traffic and replace steam locomotives. Again, folks, this is not just railroad history, this is American history. And we really do, again, appreciate you guys coming out and helping us show off not just this generation, but the next generation, but the golden age of railroading was like. At this time, if you have any questions, feel free to come on up. You're more than welcome to ask anything. Bob, are you Santa Claus? He didn't hear me. Folks, we're more than welcome to head back to the train, and at this time, we should be departing here in 10 minutes.
As soon as the shop tour was finished, we would hop back on board the train heading back to Grand Junction Station.
Alright, folks, as you can see, we have just departed for East Chattanooga Depot. Well, we want to thank you very much again for riding with us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of your train ride today. However, I will get up here in just a moment and see if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns. I am more than happy to answer anything you got for me. However, if you don't have anything for me, or you don't have any, or if I don't know the answer to anything, well, folks, I can just make something up that sounds good. Next stop, folks, Grand Junction. crossed over the South Chickamauga Creek. That means we are now riding back at Grand Junction, and unfortunately that means our train ride is coming towards an end. We want to thank you very much for riding with us today. If you have enjoyed or want to check out one of our longer train rides, we'll come back and ride the Missionary local again. Or you can check out our website at TVRM.com. Once again, that is TVRM.com. We have trips into Northwest Georgia, such as the Somerville Steam Special, used behind the Southern Railway number 4501. The Chickamauga Turn takes you to the Chickamauga Battlefield and downtown Chickamauga. We also have a dinner on the diner that takes you to downtown Polk Street. And we also have trips out of Delano, Tennessee that go along the scenic Lamposse River. Folks, if you enjoyed your train ride today, well, my name is Lane. This is the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. However, if you did not enjoy your train ride today, well then folks, my name is Brian Klingerman, and this is the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad of Bryson City, North Carolina. Well, our next stop will be the Nantahala Outdoor Center. Thank you very much for riding with us, folks. Thank you very much.
Now this would conclude my Missionary Ridge local train ride. Well folks, if you all enjoyed today's video, please smash the like button down below, subscribe for more content, comment on your thoughts on the video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss an upload. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.